Recording in progress.
So we want to welcome everyone that's joining us at this moment. We are waiting about 2 more minutes to have everyone to come in and for us to start sharply at 10:30 a.m. In the meantime, you can feel free to go ahead and share this on your social media, on your Facebook as well. We are also live on at Broward County OESBD. So in about another minute, we are going to go ahead and get started. So happy Friday, everyone. We are excited to have you all join us here today for this another conversation series in celebration of Women's History Month. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to the Assistant Director for the Office of Economic and Small Business Development, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to Maribel Feliciano. Maribel?
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? We're really looking forward to a great event this morning. Basically, we're celebrating Women's History Month. So happy Women's History Month to everybody that's joining us today. And this year actually marks the 3rd year where we're hosting our conversation series for women during the month of March. We started 3 years ago. Actually, this month, we're celebrating Women's History Month with our conversation series, but they have been so successful that we're doing them year-round as well. And Women's History Month is in March, but we need to celebrate every day of the year. So today we have an excellent program for all of you, and it is truly my honor and pleasure to introduce to you one of Broward County's new commissioners. And she may be new as a Broward County Commissioner, but she is not new to our office. She has been working with our office for many, many years in support of her residents and all the businesses that have been part of her district. So it is truly an honor for me to welcome Commissioner Hazel P. Rogers from District 8. Good morning, Commissioner Rogers.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me. And I just look forward to hearing all of the good stuff that you guys are going to do. But first, let me do my official protocol. I am with District 9, and that covers the cities of Plantation, Sunrise, Lauderhill, Lauderdale Lake, City of Oakland Park, the City of Fort Lauderdale. So just wanted to put that in the record. I'm proud to represent that district. I would like to welcome everyone to this event that I know will be motivational and educational. As I scan the Zoom lobby, I see the numbers of you who have joined us on social media. I am impressed and know that this will be one of those for the record books. Okay, ladies, don't let me down. I'll be watching all the way through. Secondly, thank you to Mr. McDonald for the team for putting this awesome, amazing panel who are all contributing to the betterment of Broward County every day. We salute you, and I, for one, am excited to learn from this conversation. The Board of County Commissioners presented a proclamation recognizing National Women's History Month during our last commission meeting on March 14th. And I did not want to miss acknowledging former County Commissioner Bertha, former County Administrator. I am still working on my commission and administrator, okay? Former County Administrator Bertha Enright, and our not so new County Administrator who is now leading this $6 billion plus machine, Monica Shapiro, who is a daughter of Cuban American born in Puerto Rico. I am sure this awesome conversation with this group of women, business leaders, will prove that every day and every month, women should be recognized for their resiliency and tenacity. Women as agent of change is not a new concept. Throughout history, women has led movements for change at every level and been an integral part of that change, political, economic, and social change. The story of women as change agent is ever so compelling. One of the grit and tenacity of original women who have transformed themselves, their families, and their communities while battling against great odds. Often they were not noted or remembered. Thank you for giving the flowers to these women leaders today while they can smell and enjoy everything that they have done and their contribution to this community of Broward County and beyond. I encourage you to take notes, ask questions, and continue to lift each other up. That's how we thrive. That's how we know that we are leaving our imprint, our footprint in this whole that we call women celebrating women, women working with women, women encouraging women. That's what we must do, and that's what we will continue to do because we know that's how we will achieve for our communities. I thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers, for those inspiring words. It is truly, again, thank you. We know you're really busy. You have a really busy schedule, and we really appreciate that you took some time from your very busy schedule to be with us this morning. Thank you.
I'm not running away. I will be leaving you shortly, but I will be here. I want to hear this conversation. So I thank you.
Thank you very much. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you, actually, welcome back, Broward County's Administrator, Monica Shapiro. Monica. Hello, Monica.
Monica, you're on mute.
Oh my goodness. How many
Okay,
times have
awesome.
we done that during the pandemic? My goodness, my apologies. So I guess I can start over and tell everyone how wonderful this panel is and thank my commissioner, Commissioner Rogers. You've been, it's been great in your short tenure with us, and you've already done great things. And we're looking forward to some really more amazing things. So thank you for your words. And to all of the ladies on this call and men, I hope that there's guys here too listening to this great conversation. It's important. You know, we are very blessed here in Broward County to be surrounded in this body of work that we do for this community with some really amazing leaders, and you've got a lot of them here on this call today. And this is it's really a great opportunity to get together and listen to to celebrate Women's History Month, but to listen to some of these female leaders we've got in our community, everything from small business to large industries to and the legal world and everything in between. And these are conversations that we need to continue to support, particularly as a large workforce starts coming back into play after the pandemic. And while we're still living with folks with COVID, we're pivoting and learning to be flexible in different ways. And I think what you'll hear today is some more of that and some things that we've learned along the way in the last couple of years, and how can we transform our community even more and support each other and the good work that still needs to be done. So, we need to be intentional. I think you're going to hear some really great words of wisdom and some pearls of wisdom from all of us here today. But really, I'm excited to listen and I really appreciate Maribel. I know under your leadership here, Sandy's been extremely supportive, but we all know behind the scenes who's driving this. One of our ladies here in the realm, and you've I think we've had over like 1,700 participants in this virtual space that we've been doing over time, and that's pretty incredible. And we're able to reach a lot of folks with a really great message. And I'm going to sit back and listen because I always get to learn. And something I always say to everybody is surround yourself with people smarter than yourself, and certainly be open and learn something new every day, because that's the only way we learn and we stretch and we grow. So I'm going to sit back and be quiet. I'm really happy to be here and listen. And thank you for inviting me to not just be a participant, but to listen in. So thank you. And now I'm going to turn it back over to you guys so I can learn some more today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica, for joining us. And that's right. We've had over 7 conversations so far, Conversation for Women, and over 1,700 participants to date. So we're really excited about it. And I hope everybody is ready for an excellent program this morning. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you our moderator for today, Jeanette Sanchez Aslan, and she's going to be moderating our panel and introducing our speakers. Welcome, Jeanette.
Thank you, Maribel. And I think someone in the chat said something in Spanish, and I speak Spanish, so I have to respond and say bienvenidos as well. I have to say a welcome. But as a reminder, I just wanted to remind everyone that you have an opportunity to not only see us right here on Zoom, but still live, and to share this very impactful conversation and this very impactful time with the ladies that we're going to be learning from through Facebook Live. So take a moment, take a second to share it, to send it to your contacts, and to continue to stay engaged during the conversation by letting us know your comments, thoughts, support of fellow females in your profession, or even your particular industry, or just women in general. We're here to celebrate, we're here to learn, and we're here to have a great time while we do it. So getting ready, let me introduce you to our panelists. And I'm really, really excited to hear from the ladies. I don't know if you can tell my energy, but I really am. These are phenomenal leaders in their respective industries. So I'm going to take a second to introduce each one of them. Bear with me. There's quite a few things we can say about them. So I'm briefly going to give you just a short introduction to their many, many accomplishments. All right, so let's get started with Cheryl Dickey. Cheryl, I want to make sure I can see you. There you are, Cheryl. Cheryl is the president and CEO of Dickey Consulting Services. It's located in Fort Lauderdale, and it was established back in 1995. Now, DCS stands for Dickey Consulting Services, provides consulting services in project management, public and private relations, business development, economic development, and strategic planning. Welcome, Cheryl. Do you want to say a few words to our audience today?
Thank you so much, Jeanette. Yes, I want to thank Broward County for putting on this initiative, and quite frankly, being one of the major clients that this company has been able to be successful because of it, because we do a lot of government work, do community outreach with the transportation industry, BCT, as well as the Public Works Division with their planning work, as well as their water and sewer. So as we continue on and you hear a little bit from me, these are areas that I would like to see more women in. And just wanted to thank Broward County for being such a great client and giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Cheryl, for welcoming our audience. And our next panelist, let me introduce her. Bernadette, where are you? I want to make sure I can see you. Bernadette Norris Weeks. Now, Bernadette is a partner in the law firm Austin Pamis Norris Weeks Powell, a mouthful, I know. But she serves as counsel to various government entities, including Broward, Miami-Dade, and Palm Beach counties. Her firm handles a number of types of cases, including personal injury, corporate and real estate matters. She's also a former counsel to the Broward County Supervisor of Elections Office. And most recently, I believe that she became the chair-elect for the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce. Bernadette, welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, great. I'm excited to be with you all today as we celebrate Women's History Month. It is an honor to be on this virtual panel with so many esteemed women and have this conversation about women-owned businesses and leadership. And so thanks to OESBD for this invitation, and Sandy, of course, and I look forward to talking with you all today.
Thank you, Bernadette. And our last but absolutely not least of our panelists, Maggie Gunther. Maggie, are you there? You good? Can you hear us?
Yep.
Wonderful. Now, let me tell you about Maggie. Maggie is the Vice President of Marketing and Communications for the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance. She is a creative, results and relationship driven with extensive experience and expertise, I would say, in communications, community relations, marketing, and economic development. With a knack, she has a specific knack for leading organizations to success, and she's actively engaged in the Greater Fort Lauderdale and Broward County area through a number of philanthropy and service organizations. Maggie, give us a welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much to everyone at the county and our partner at Office of Economic and Small Business Development. You really make all the work that we do at the Alliance possible, and all of our partners at the county and these excellent women-owned businesses. We're so proud to be affiliated with each of you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Maggie. Ladies, let's get to some of the very important discussions here, but I want to just throw a challenge, I would say, to those that are in the chat by way of reminding you that you can connect with the panelists and be part of this conversation. Why don't you let us know what industries you're here for? So perhaps the panelists can gauge, what are some of the industries that are represented here. So let us know in the chat, whether it's Facebook Live or through this Zoom information setting where we can get to know what areas, what industries you're joining us from. But to get started, as we celebrate Women's History Month, what are some important gains that women have made throughout history, and how can we continue to make that progress in the coming years? I'm going to get started with the first one on my screen. Bernadette, why don't you lead us there?
Sure. Well, women have gained, quite a lot in the last many years. However, there's still a lot to do, obviously. When you think about it in context, we just gained the right to vote in the 1920s with the passage of the 19th Amendment. And on Election Day, back at that time, millions of American women exercised this right, but for almost 100 years prior to that time, women and some men were fighting for women's suffrage. They made speeches, they signed petitions, they marched in parades and argued over how soon that right to vote would take place. I still think that is so necessary for women to continue to exercise our political clout and our voting power. We cannot forget such women as we celebrate Women's History Month, Susan B. Anthony and Ida B. Wells and women like that who came before us and really laid the foundation. Other significant gains was, of course, the Equal Pay Act. It is a labor law that prohibits gender-based wage discrimination in the United States. It was signed by President Kennedy in 1963 as an amendment to the Fair Labor Standards Act, and the law mandates equal pay. And so we've been able to rely on that provision and law for many, many years. And even though we're not on par and we're not where we should be today, it certainly was a significant and important historical moment for women. So I just think we need to all keep pushing forward and make sure that the laws that are in place continue to benefit us in our collective empowerment.
Maggie, and just adding on to some of the important gains that Bernadette mentioned, what are your thoughts on that question?
Well, Bernadette really covered pretty much everything, but one really important thing to note is that women only really were able to buy homes on their own and to have credit, in the 70s. At that point, credit cards for women. So it's kind of shocking to think that in this far along in our history that it's that recent that we've had those kinds of rights. Could be a bit of a hot topic, but I think we need to continue to advocate for bodily autonomy, because women, we need the rights to control our bodies and how we're able to choose when we are having families and different things in that area. So I also think that we just need to continue to advocate for, as Bernadette said, continue to go out and vote and advocate and make sure our voices are heard.
And Maggie, you mentioned having our voices, and both of you, Bernadette, and you brought up the idea of keeping that active voice, right, on this ongoing issues. Cheryl, can you share with us some comments on perhaps some of the ways that women nowadays can continue to have that active voice?
Yes, so because they've covered certainly the voting issue, and what I know has been very important in my ability to move forward is the U.S. Department of Labor's in 1980, through their Comprehensive Employment and Training Act, began to emphasize the need for women to be in non-traditional occupations and become entrepreneurs. So I know I was part of, back in Ohio, a training program out of the Cincinnati area called PREP, which was preparing women to be involved in non-traditional work. So we were preparing them to be plumbers and pipe fitters, iron workers, carpenters, and all the non-traditional areas. And then they could then become entrepreneurs themselves in those trades. And I'm saying that, as we all know today, you can hardly find a mechanic, a plumber, all those non-traditional but very essential workers that we need. And there's openings for women to participate. There are training programs, and I'm encouraging the women today to look at those opportunities and their children as well.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I do want to remind the panelists that, ladies, this is a conversation. And as we listen, and as you listen to each other, share some of those thoughts, other thoughts might come to mind. So feel free to let me know if you want to chime in and add, anything to the comments that have been shared with us. And to you, the audience that's watching us, remember, you can still be active. Let us know your comments, thoughts, support for the ideas that the ladies are sharing as you actively engage in the chat. And I do want to give thanks and shout out to all of those folks that follow instructions and they tell us exactly what industries they were from. This really helps us know the women we're supporting in the many industries that perhaps we may not recognize as in much need of female leadership and development. So thank you for sharing that information. And now let's transition a bit to those biggest challenges that women currently face in women-owned businesses. And I'm going to get started with you, Maggie, on that one, to see if you can lead us in that conversation.
Sure. So I think a lot of times it's a lack of knowledge that women have of the resources that are available to them in business. So I think it's outstanding that OESBD is doing sessions like this and all of the many, many educational opportunities that they put on for their programs for women-owned business certification. Everything that OESBD does is really incredible. So there's all of those resources. Women businesses and small businesses in general may not know about resources such as the Small Business Development Center. That's actually the first place I ever worked. And all the free sessions and training sessions and one-on-one business counseling that's available. Also, similar organization is SCORE, where a lot of retired executives will meet one-on-one with business owners. Women-owned, any businesses, any small business looking to get off the ground or to maybe transition to the next stage. We also have outstanding, we have accelerators in the community. Broward College has an accelerator. We have the NSU Center of Innovation. There's just so many resources, and women in all small businesses may not be aware of that. So it's really outstanding that you're plugged into a session like today's, because you're going to start to learn about this and get on the lists and start getting the emails and know about what's going on.
Thank you, Maggie. Such wonderful resources. And if I was in the audience, I'm writing those down, each one of those resources, whether it be because I would need them or I can share them with others. And that's something that we want to encourage all of you that are watching. Don't keep this information for yourself or to yourself. This is the time to share the power. You share the power by sharing the information as well. So moving on to the same question, Bernadette, any thoughts on what other available resources on this question?
Sure, there are a lot of resources that women have that we didn't have necessarily when I first started. One of those resources that was present at that time is through the Small Business Administration. There's something called SCORE. And that program, I founded when I started my law office, really. I was looking for materials and any information because there just weren't a lot of women doing that, opening practices at that time that I knew of. And this is in the 90s. And I went to the library and I met with one of the SCORE people, and they talked to me about a business plan and made me think about things I didn't think about at that time that was so critically important. Not just marketing, we all think about that, but just a lot of other things financially, and keeping your books, and who will be your bookkeeper, and and getting into the nitty-gritty. And of course, you mentioned earlier that I am the chair-elect for the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce, and I will tell you that the chambers are certainly great resources, and they can be really great for supporting businesses, because if you really utilize them in a way that is beneficial by making, not just paying the dues and saying, I haven't got any business, but really making yourself available to meet people, to go to the different events, to take advantage of the numerous, for instance, with the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber, there are numerous events that take place every single month that you can learn about all types of things that will support your business. And so those are two of the things. And I think you mentioned challenges. Is that was part of the question? Challenges.
Yes,
of
it
course,
was. Yes.
Yeah, have to do with childcare and women disproportionately shouldering the responsibility for the care of children. And so some of those challenges can be, finding resources that will help offset cost. I mean, that has been a big issue with our Congress people that we hear about all the time, and being advocates for those issues. I think those are some of the things that we can do. There's access to capital. I mean, I could go on, but there are, if you connect with chambers, if you take advantage of the various resources that the Small Business Administration has, that Broward County has. Broward County is a tremendous resource. I mean, you guys offer so many services for small businesses. It's and I'm hoping we get a moment later to talk about some of the areas where we should be advocates, just to make sure that though we're able to continue benefiting in the way that you are able to now provide services.
Thank you, Bernadette. And those of you in the audience, as you continue to listen about the resources and the key programs are in place to help you with your small business, we invite you to continue to think about questions as well, follow-up questions you may want to ask the panelists about any particular comment or the programs that they have mentioned. You can do that through Facebook Live as well. So as a reminder, continue to engage with us there. Cheryl, can you also share with us your thoughts on challenges, perhaps, or resources that you have found that have been helpful to you in your journey?
Certainly. So in addition to all the wonderful resources that Maggie and Bernadette have mentioned, which I have also taken advantage of and made sure that others knew about as well, there are the actual industry organizations that women could join. Women in Transportation, the organizations that are part of procurement, CompTO, which is the organization that helps minorities in transportation, as well as AMAC, which helps those in the space of the airports. These are all procurement opportunities, and I think that's very, very important, because as you start your business through the resources that Maggie and Bernadette talked about, the next thing is really, how are you going to get that business? And so part of it is joining those organizations and being a part of them, as well as the chambers that have opportunities. In addition to that, I would say that we should be intentional about not only getting women as our mentors, but challenging men to be our mentors. I recall doing that. I wasn't successful with a few people, but there were a couple of men that did take me under their wing and utilize my firm, quite frankly, for the last 25 years, because I wasn't doing exactly what they were doing. What I was doing was enhancing what they do. They needed the specialty that I had, and they utilize me throughout this entire time. We've been in business 28 years. So to me, that makes a big difference. Challenge men to also be your mentors because they have a broader reach, unfortunately, than some of us women. But I would say that we need to do that. So the challenges have been just that, penetrating the men's world in certain sectors of industry that are very difficult. But I would say that the doors are open now and that women really ought to go through them. Obviously, we know about the STEM initiatives and really must, even though I talked about some of what I call the old school industries, they still need to be addressed. But what we're also dealing with is what we all just saw from the Broward Alliance is the whole meta universe. And since Broward is moving into that whole area and becoming an essential part of tech, I would ask that they begin to look at the resources available there.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I think all of you ladies at some point kind of hinted at this question, but for the folks in our audience that joined this particular conversation because they have that inner voice that says it's time to do it, it's time to get out and start your own, but they also have that other voice that tells them, is it really time? Why don't we talk briefly about that? You know, I'm going to get started with Mackie and just what would you tell that voice that's telling you, is it time?
I read an interesting, I'm not, the title of the book is escaping me, but I read an interesting book where it was talking about that concept and how a lot of times that actually the people who are more conservative and thoughtful and don't just jump out are actually end up being more successful. But I think sometimes you just have to take that leap, but you take a leap, but you do it in a cautious manner, right? So people, you know, women maybe need to have that extra savings or know if you can lean on a partner, and just go ahead and take the jump. A lot of people in my generation in particular are big into side hustles. So they'll try the business out on the side, get it going, get a following, and then it's a matter of if they're going to make the jump or not. But at least they have the opportunity to test drive it and know if it's going to be successful. Did you have anything else with that?
No, that was it. Just, I thought that occurred to me, and Bernadette, I'm going to switch the question slightly, for you along the same veins, in reacting to some of the businesses and the information that was shared with us. So what about those folks that they followed that inner voice that said, yes, I'm starting it, and they're in that first tough year, right? And they're just trying to tell themselves, did I really make that decision? What would you tell them at this stage, following what Maggie shared with us?
I would say just really double down and invest in yourself and your business. One of the things that I did, people probably would have thought I was a little crazy for doing, was hire an associate, like within the first year of practicing law. And at the time, I didn't have enough business. This is, in the 90s to really support so much that person. But I, had a line of credit, which I don't necessarily, subscribe to for paying salaries, but I was just going to make it happen. And I got a line of credit, and I hired an associate, and I just hustled. And I think that you just really have to have, kind of a hungry mentality that you're going to initially, when you're starting a business, you're going to burn both ends. And, didn't really get a lot of sleep because I was out trying to build relationships, which are the hallmark, I think, of any type of business. I mean, if you're looking to go into business for yourself, you better have some friends. You better make some relationships. You better, do things to support other people, so that hopefully, when it's your time, people will remember and hopefully support you. So I went to things. I worked on, on some campaigns. I helped other women achieve their goals. I got involved in bar associations. I did work there where people thought what I was doing was meaningful and thought about me for work, because they saw me working not necessarily with legal work, but they saw me working, doing things that were meaningful and significant and in organizations. And so one of the things that I have always believed in is giving back to the community always pays off. And so I got involved in things that I was sincerely interested in doing, and through that, business will come. I do believe that if you're someone who is community minded, you're civic minded, you care about other people, you know, you do things outside of yourself, I think that always, you know, finds a way to come back and benefit you. And I can keep going on that line, but I'll stop there.
No, great information. And in fact, I do want to give a shout out to someone in the chat, Maria Sodali, who said something incredible and phenomenal. I think she said, relationships and friendships are our superpower to succeed in business and in life. And that is so, so true. Thank you so much, Maria, for commenting and sharing that, you know, with us. But along the same, I see, Monica, you're here and we're talking about relationships, connections, leading Broward County. Can you please comment on some of those?
Sure. You know, as Bernadette was talking, you know, and Maggie, my head is just nodding. You know, Cheryl, you know, I see Cheryl at all of the luncheons I go to. Bernadette, Maggie, you know, you guys are present everywhere, and that there is something to be said. I look back in the trajectory of the course that my career took, and quite frankly, you know, I was actually at a hockey game last night, and I was talking to former Mayor Jack Seiler about this, and he was remembering back when I was very young in my early 30s, when he used to sit across the desk from me when he was the delegation chair representing all of Broward County, and I lived in Tallahassee, working for a former governor. We sat on different sides of the aisle, but here we sit today. Same people, different roles. And it's all about how you treat people, regardless of what your role is, whatever your position is or is not. You know, it's people. I think Eleanor Roosevelt had a quote, and I will paraphrase it to say, it's not what you say to people, but how you make them feel. And that's how they're going to remember you, right? And it's about relationships, and you know, just work hard, show up, and you know, that will pay dividends well beyond the work you're working on in that moment. And among this panel and other people I see in the chat, I've known for a long time, and you build those relationships, and it does take time and effort, but it's very, very rewarding, and we gain things from each of those relationships and from each other. So thanks for those comments, Bernadette. Yeah.
And along the same vein, I would say, with respect to relationship building, Cheryl, I'm going to go to you on this one. We may have some folks in the audience that are either new to the industry and they're starting to build those connections, or they're new to their practice area, right? They're starting to build those initial relationships. Can you comment, Cheryl, on what are some of the effective tools that you found in your journey that have helped you not just make those initial connections, but keep them and work with them?
Yes, so it's really following up just and when you meet someone who, in fact, you know, as we exchange business cards or even information to make sure that we stay in touch with them. You can start out, you know, really the initial contact, and then depending on how that relationship was formed, maybe you're going to meet weekly, or maybe you're going to meet monthly. That might be more reasonable for some of the folks, and but stay in contact with them. And then, you know, be a part of some of the other groups that they belong to, because that's how you can then build on that relationship. Whoever they know, then get them to, in fact, introduce you to those folks as well. Because that's how, of course, our business has been able to grow. Dealing with engineers and planners and architects, they all know each other. They belong to industries groups. And so as you build a relationship with two of them, go ahead and grow the other. So it's really staying in contact and letting the people know that you appreciate the relationship that they have allowed you to build with them. That's real important, you know, because everybody matters, not just the big guys, as they say, but everybody matters. You never know. The person who may not have had what I refer to as the biggest reach may have a small reach, but that could be the contact that you needed to grow your business and or just to help you live, be positive, because all relationships don't have to be business. You know about our healthcare, and what I mean by that is our well-being, and that is so important because women are have to do so many things, and it's real important that we take care of our mental health. So our friendships and relationships that we build really have to build on our mental health as well.
And Sherry, you touched upon a couple of topics that I'm going to circle back with you on because they're so impactful. But we are limited on time. So I want to remind those folks that are listening to us or watching us through Zoom or through Facebook Live, this is the time to send in your questions, put it in the chat. We're going to try to dedicate, time permits, some time at the very end of this presentation to ask some of your questions to the panelists if we have not answered them already. So this is the time, get those questions in so that we can get you those answers before the end of the session. As we speak, Cheryl, about some of the topics you mentioned, you really emphasize the importance of the type of relationships, right? Not just business, but there's some relationships that you need to be in outside of your industry, right? That sisterhood, that solidarity component that you just need, right? So Bernadette, why don't you share with us perhaps what the importance of solidarity as females in our respective industries, and how can we lift each other up and the importance of doing so?
Yes, well, this is a topic, of course, that's near and dear to me. I am one of the founders of the Women of Color Empowerment Institute, and we've been going strong for a number of years now. It's an organization where, among other things, we have a mentorship program, and we really try to assist women in creating paths to leadership. But it's not just that. It really serves as a circle of sisterhood and a place where women can grow and learn, in a safe zone for women to support each other in business and in life. And I think that is so important. So whatever your outlet is, whatever your groups are, whether it's your church or whether it's organizations like mine, I think that it is so important for women to, bond together, because we understand, the struggles that we go through, which are much different from what men experience in this world. And I think that there has to be some safe space that, you can feel that you can belong and be able to share experiences and I mean, I've had days where I'm just like, gee whiz, I can't believe this happened. And just talking to a sister who, white, black, blue, green, who, because of our sex, we understand, having been in a meeting and being cut off, and then someone says exactly what you said 5 minutes later, and then it becomes like the great idea in the room, or, so many examples like that women understand. So you have to have those safe spaces to go to.
And I saw quite a few of our panelists kind of nodding along to some of the things, Bernadette, you were saying. And Maggie, you were the first one right next to her. Here to comment on that.
Well, just another thought in the solidarity is that I think we have a responsibility as women in leadership to bring more women on board and to get them in those places. So one of the things that we're very intentional about at the Alliance is the makeup of our board of directors. We try to ensure that it's diverse in all kinds of ways, and that we don't go more than a couple of years, and hopefully not at all, without women in our top levels of leadership. So we are always on the lookout for that new talent to come and help, volunteer talent to help lead our organization. But I think also, so I sit on a couple of different, actually with Bernadette on the Village Square, and also with Tower Forum. These are just community forums that discuss like important issues in the community. And I'm always the one that's saying, okay, is this panel diverse? Is it diverse ethnically? Is it diverse by gender? Like, it's in 2023, I don't think there's any reason to be looking at any group anywhere and seeing all of anything except for this panel, which is a women's event. So I think we all have a responsibility to look critically at those things and to make sure that everyone is represented. And then if there are groups and things where, organizations where maybe it's looking all one way, maybe we can gently suggest that to the leadership, because, I think they may not realize sometimes the way things look, and just need a little nudge sometimes to bring more people to the table. And if there are not already women at the table, then maybe you should be the one to speak up and say, hey, can we be represented? Can I have a great person for you? Can you get them on your board and in leadership roles? Monica has a thought.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was
I have a-
actually going to jump right to you, Monica, just to comment briefly on sisterhood and solidarity as well.
Yeah. So thank you, because I'm jumping out of my chair here. It is absolutely, Maggie, you hit it. It's our responsibility. You hit it right on the head. We have to lift each other up. I don't know about you all, and not just the panelists, but everyone here. My experience has been that I wouldn't be in the seat I currently am humbled enough and honored to sit in if it were not for people. And not all of them are women, obviously, but for people taking a chance and giving me an opportunity and to serve in different capacities that I myself might not have been, in my mind, ready to take on. But someone else saw something in me that maybe I wasn't quite confident enough to see in myself at that time, at that young age. And so we have to make sure that not just playing the game of we're playing lip service to diversity, but really that it's diversity of every aspect, thought, background, gender, everything. We really need to be intentional and make sure that the conversations that we all have is very intentional and that it's reflective of the community that we live in and that we serve.
So true and very well said, Monica, on those comments. But I do want to circle back for a minute on some of the things that Cheryl mentioned. As I said, we are limited with time. And in fact, each one of these responses could be an entire session, and perhaps it should be on navigating some of those questions much more deeply. But Cheryl, you brought up the idea of what I would call the balancing act, right? Earlier on, you talked about how we have different roles, different hats, and there's some expectations of us, right? Caregivers, business women, leaders starting, and some of you mentioned how you do also volunteer community work, right? Which in and of itself is also another profession that you have to grow and build connections in. So can you briefly comment, Cheryl, on that balancing act and what are some practical steps perhaps that you take to keep that act?
Yes, so it is very important for me to always be involved in the community. So for me, it's involvement in my church, it's involvement in Broward's Literary Public Library Foundation. It has been the chamber in the past, in various other groups that are of interest. There's some social service issues, and there is also the Broward cultural arts and entrepreneurship issues. I've always been, I'm not an artist, nor can I sing or dance, but I love music and art. And so want to bring them into the community and have been involved in trying to make that happen as well. So the balancing act for me was, oh, gee, you can't do all these things at once. So you have to learn how to say no. Now, that doesn't mean say no all the time. What I'm saying is understand what it is that really brings you joy is what I'm going to say. What brings me joy? What brings me joy? And that helps feed my mental health. And then be able to say no to those things that don't bring you joy. There's nothing wrong with them. Some people make you believe that, oh, gee, if you're not doing these things over here, then you're not participating or contributing, when in fact you are. So you have to be confident in what it is that you're doing and that you're making a difference and can bring joy to yourself as well.
Saying no and the importance and the power of a no. Fantastic, Cheryl. Thank you for sharing that. Maggie, I saw you agreeing quite a bit with Cheryl's comments. And anything to add?
Just to making the time for yourself too, and also making time for your own health and fitness. I didn't go this morning, but normally I walk 2 miles every morning before work. And it really helps me get centered in the day, and you just have to kind of squeeze these things in, make time for friends. And as I think Cheryl and Bernadette both were referencing, just having that sisterhood and having somebody that you can bounce things off of that understands and is not going to judge and is not in the situation and can be like an outside I'm not thinking of the word right now, but like just someone, a sounding board basically.
And you reminded us of a very important topic that, again, could be an entire session: stress and self-care. I mean, those are two very critical and real aspects of our day-to-day. Bernadette, can you comment on that and give us some words of wisdom there?
Well, I don't know if I have words of wisdom so much. I think that, when you hear women say, oh, she can do it all or she has it all, I don't think that's real. I think that we focus on the things that are important to us. And many of us, especially on this Zoom call, we're used to juggling a lot. And so I think that if you can find the balance for yourself, I know that I look at things, I process things quickly, and I hope that continues as I age. But I can do a lot of things, and I know a lot of us on the line are just those type of women. And so it's getting to the point where you know where to, say no, like was said, but also I'm at a point in my life where I'm trying to do things that move me, things that give me energy, things that make me feel alive, and I'm trying to deposit my time, the most of my time. I help with a lot of different things, and I think I have a lot to contribute, and I try to do what I can. So when people bring me into things, I tell them in advance, this is what I can do. I can do this thing for you, and I try to keep my word on whatever I say that I will do. But at the same time, the bulk of my time at this time in my life is to, give to and focus on those things that I think will move the needle. And so I'm not quite there yet, but that's the direction that I'm moving into. And, just like was said before, trying to really find time for exercise and focus on eating well and meditation and friendships and just joy, trying to find the most in life, those things that bring you joy. For me, it's travel. So unwinding from life that I have here in South Florida, running from here to there every day and not as much sleep as I'd like to have all the time. I'm trying to find, those pockets of time every other month, even if it's just for a couple of days, to just get away and travel and see something different.
So important, Bernadette, and taking a moment to self-reflect and really recognize whether what we are doing seemingly that gives us joy, is it because of us or because of someone else? If we're still giving and giving, it may be great and joyous, but we're still not giving to ourselves. So taking a moment to do that is equally important. Monica, you were also mentioning earlier some of the things that I'm going to shift slightly to being a voice of change and an agent of change as a leader of an entire organization that really focuses on that kind of work. Can you comment briefly on how can we cultivate that voice as a leader and an agent of change?
So thanks. What I like to do is make sure that I try to really foster an environment in our culture, really ingrained it in the culture of our organization, that, I want people to feel comfortable and speaking their minds and to make suggestions. And I do not like, and anyone who knows me knows that I really walk this talk, that I don't like to be surrounded by yes people. I need to know what I don't know. I need to know what, the people that have different ideas than I do, what they think, what they're going to say. How will my idea really reverberate throughout the community? Does it make sense? Is it going to really have the impact that I hope it will have in a positive way? And if it doesn't, where are the pitfalls and how can we address those things? So to that end, if something, because we're all human and we're all fallible, and if something in an idea I have or an idea somebody else has, if it doesn't work, we're not going to smack people down. We say, okay, we learn from it. And as long as we learn from those mistakes, then we still are going in the right way, because now we know we can't do that. Let's pivot and figure out a different way to do it. I will share one really quick story that when I first started in the workforce, when I finished grad school, my mother gave me a little piece of paper. I actually have it framed and it's now sitting on my desk. And it says, there are no mistakes in life, only lessons. That little thing here, I'll see if I can show it to you. I don't know if it'll show up here very well. It's
It
all
won't
blurred.
show, but we believe you. We
Blurred.
see
So
it.
there's my frame. But I used to have that, and it's all like faded and yellowed out from the sun from every desk I've ever had since I was 21 years old, just about 30 some odd years ago. But so it's got push pins in it, and I've always kept it on my desk or on a push a pin board in my desk to remind me, it's okay to make a mistake. You just learn from it, and that's how we grow. And so I try to really push that through the whole organization, because that's how we can grow, and we don't stifle creativity, and we don't stifle change agents, and we need to be open to that.
Love that. Great words. Monica, if I can ask you to repeat that quote, it's another quotable moment, and I'm sure a lot of us are going to write it down on a post-it and put it right in front of our desk every day.
Yeah, there are no mistakes in life, only lessons. I'll put it in the chat.
I love it. I love it. And speaking of lessons, ladies, if we can insert here this question for you, Bernadette, I'm going to get started with you. You're the first one on my screen. Speaking of lessons, what is the most memorable lesson with respect to your journey that you wish to share with those in the audience that may be either starting their journey, leading their own businesses, or maybe thinking about doing so?
Sure. And I thought about this a little bit this morning. I think that, when we, especially as women of color, the bar is a little bit higher. For women, the bar is higher. And for women of color, it's a little bit higher than that. And so I've always spent time that maybe it didn't, require to just do more and more and more, and being prepared is good, but I'll leave you with this word: progress over perfection, because I think for too long in my career I have tried to be perfect. And I've tried to, if it was a brief, I will try to get every, and not that you should have everything perfect, but every case, I want to see everything. And sometimes if you're making the progress, I think you can give yourself grace, and you can still get to maybe even close to the same point, but you're not unnecessarily stressing yourself. And so for people just starting out in business and in life, I would say, you're going to have it a little bit better than maybe, some of us did on the phone. Me and Cheryl did just a little bit better, because maybe that total perfection bar isn't, raised as high, but certainly make progress, and, you don't have to be perfect.
I love this, Bernadette. And again, I saw so many other heads nodding along, because it's so powerful and so true what you've said. There is a question on the chat that I thought it was quite appropriate, since we're speaking of lessons. And this is from, I apologize if I can't pronounce it correctly, but Marician Sartori. Thank you so much, Marician, for sending this question in. The question is, who inspired you to be a leader, and why? And this goes back to lessons and mentorship. So Maggie, this one is yours.
This one's very easy. My mom. So she was a mother of, she basically was divorced with 5 kids, in the early 70s. Had always just worked a variety of jobs, and then just jumped into the real estate world, and ended up becoming a broker. I came along as a surprise a little bit later when they thought they were about to retire. She took some time off, and then she just applied on a whim to the IRS and got a job at the Internal Revenue Service running the VITA program. So she's just, and then, a few years after that, retired from that and started her own business. So she's just never been afraid to jump in and to work hard. And I remember this. So my dad is was a bit older than her, and he was legitimately retired, but she wasn't ready to be retired. So she would get up at like 4 a.m, do all the work for her tax business, and then basically cook and, you know, put breakfast on the table for my dad and spend time with me as a kid. And so I understood all the sacrifices that she made for me, and I try to emulate her hard work and success in my life.
Maggie, I love that you mentioned your mom. I do too. If I could, I would do the same as well for my mom. But you highlight the importance of being an example to those who are close to us, right? We often think we're going to find that role model somewhere on the internet, on the website, some big fancy name we're going to meet, and that's going to be the role model. And we forget that it's really closer, those closer to home that are seeing the sacrifices, that are making those sacrifices on our behalf, so that we can continue to pursue those dreams. And I think all the panelists at some point mentioned the importance of family as well, right? And making sure that we make time for them. So Cheryl, can you comment briefly and also answer the question of one of our chat folks there about mentorship and leadership?
So believe it or not, the mentors in my life started early. Once again, I have to go back to, because I grew up in the United Methodist Church, and I never had a grandmother. Both my parents' mothers died when they were little children, 1, 3, my father was 6. And so I never had a grandmother. And there were older women in my church who subsequently, one of them was my first grade school teacher, Miss Dorothy Taylor. I will never forget her. And so these were kind women. You know, remember how grandmothers are, so they have a little bit more tolerance for children. And so that was really my first mentoring as a child. And I'm saying this for a reason, because I think that people don't understand the necessity of dealing with children early on. Now, I certainly had mentors later on throughout my whole travel of them, you know, being in high school, then also in the workplace, as well as after I graduated from college, etc. But I want to emphasize the fact that we need to spend time with our children at an early age, because you really can mentor them at that age. And it's important what kind of mentoring they're getting. So I'm talking about kindness, loving, and providing leadership and guidance at an early age. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Cheryl. And just want to remind the audience watching us through Facebook Live or through Zoom, this is your chance. We're getting close to the end of this phenomenal presentation. Your chance to ask those questions, get them in, get your answers in. So please connect with us in the chat and put your questions there. And speaking of questions, there's another question as to how important is it to volunteer and or give back to communities or families that are trying to elevate? And this comes from Madeline Noel. Monica, do you want to comment and kind of chime in on that question?
Sorry, I was having a hard time unmuting. Yeah, you know, that's a great question. And it goes, I think of it immediately to the balance question we talked about, you know, and it's about being intentional with where you spend your time and the impact that directly has a correlation to, not just for those that you're working with, but for yourself also, right? So I do some work, if you can believe it. I do also try to give back a little bit outside of my 24-hour my giving back in this role, but I work with trying to have a voice for those who don't have voices, particularly in the LGBT community. And I'm actually coming up on the end of my term. I was appointed by the governor to serve as a commissioner on the Florida Commission on Human Relations. And for those of you who are obviously paying attention to what's happening out in the world, there's some challenges that all members of the LGBT community have been facing. And so it's one of those personal responsibility roles that I feel as a member of that community as well, and the Hispanic Latina community, that I also fill those shoes as well. And so, you know, I try to, you know, give my time on the donation side or the giving back side in areas where I hope that I might have an ability to make an impact and to help others find a voice. So it's really about what fulfills you. And Bernadette, you talked about, what fills you up and gives you a sense of purpose, so to speak. And so I try to find things that help me and help others. And I also loved, Cheryl, your comments about youth. Boy, if we don't take care of our youth, I don't know what's going to happen to us in the future, right? And so that's another intentional thing that I have a 12-year-old. I had my child much later, but I try to spend a lot of time in the morning on the way to school and on the way home. You can imagine I have her school bus drop her off at Government Center East, and so we drive home every night together around 7 o'clock at night. And I try to really have that time and listen and be intentional and share, and always know that the little ones are listening to how we act, how we speak, and how we treat others, from the restaurant server that we go eat at to the people that clean our offices. So just remember that.
Thank you, Monica. And we are coming close to the end of the presentation. And I believe we have just a very few minutes to kind of give the forum back to each one of the panelists for the parting thoughts on this wonderful, wonderful discussion. Bernadette, you're the first one on my screen. You get to lead us on this one.
Okay. Well, I will use my time to encourage women to stay involved politically. Sometimes you hear politics and you think of it as being some kind of a bad word, but that is what it will give us, the power that we need to really have equal pay, be on par with men, and progress. And in that light, I would, and I don't want to get specifically into bills because I know this tape is going to live on, but I will say that there are concerns that I have, because Broward County has done very, very well in terms of engaging women, attracting women, and helping us to succeed in business. And there are attacks that are being made at the state level that we really need to wake up for. One that is marching on, which could be or cause the demise of the local small business enterprise program, the CBE program with Broward County. And so I would just ask for us to stay involved, stay engaged, and really raise our voices, because they are needed at this time in particular. And with that, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bernadette. Maggie, you're up next.
Thank you all so much. This has been really wonderful and incredible how much I feel I have in common with everyone else on this panel. I recently presented to a young professionals group here called Emerge Broward, and it was like tips I wish I'd known as a young professional. So I think it's applicable to this group too. So first of all, whether it's your business or a job or anything, go where you are valued, go where people value you. You don't have, life's too short to not. Carve out your own niche. So do what you're great at. And time passes anyway, so put in the work, whether it's investing in your retirement accounts, whether it's getting an advanced degree, whether it's some new initiative for your business. Just do that little thing every day that you need to do to move you forward, and you will end up with amazing results at the end. And finally, take time off and take some downtime, because you need that to really fully be present when you do need to be there. So take the time to relax. You think it's holding you back, but actually it's going to push you much forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Such great insights. And as a reminder, folks, this is recorded and it's going to say recorded. So you can go back and write those quotable moments, put them on a Post-it, put them in front of the refrigerator, words that are going to speak to you and help you through your journey. Up next, Monica.
So, something that is, when someone asks you what's your superpower, so I was asked that recently and I had to chuckle, and you know, it's always, always, always stay true to who you are. Do not bend to the audience that you're in front of. Don't change who you are. Just, you know, the word that I always lean on is authenticity. And that has served me well because, you know, heck, we're all so busy. We can't, you know, change to and remember what we said to one person or another. You got to stay consistent, and then you always get out of the room on the right page. You know, just stay true to who you are. And I think once we do that, we can go to bed at night and be comfortable and knowing that you're doing your best job and you're doing it in an authentic, you know, meaningful way.
Thank you, Monica. And as Monica reminded us, as far as authenticity goes, it really is also a reminder of how vulnerable and authentic the ladies on the panel have been with us today, sharing their stories, their insight, truly to help us elevate and reach the next level of our journey. So I'm coming to you, Cheryl. You're going to close for us.
Oh my. So, but I agree with all three folks, Maggie, Monica, and Bernadette. Very salient points. So I will end with this. To please, sometimes just listen in the room. Listen to what's being said. You don't always have to say anything. Just listen and then be strategic about how then you're going to approach whatever you have to approach. Strategy and thinking it through is very important. Don't fly off the handle.
Thank you, Cheryl. And thank you, ladies. It has been a true honor to be able to moderate this panel and to really incorporate the feedback of those in the chat. So I want to give a shout out to all of those folks on the chat and on Facebook Live that commented, that give words of encouragement. There was so much engagement going on that you folks couldn't quite see, but there was women uplifting, women empowerment, guidance, suggestion. That is exactly what this platform is intended to do. Not just a one-way street, but a multiple-way street where we get to empower each other. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here. I'm going to now give it back to Maribel.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. And I have to tell you, I am so glad this is being recorded because I am going to go back to take notes on all the advice, really valuable advice that we got from all our panelists today. I am feeling inspired. I am feeling empowered. And I am going to take notes of all of those things because like Maggie said, I feel really connected to the experiences, values, and words of wisdom that our presenters share with us today. So thank you everyone for participating. We have more information to share with all our participants, so please do not leave yet. But I want to thank Commissioner Rogers for joining us from District 9. Thank you so much for joining us today, offering welcome remarks. I want to thank Monica for taking time off her really busy schedule to be with us this morning. I want to thank Jeanette for moderating this panel. Thank you for your energy and for being part of our conversation series this morning. Thank you, Bernadette, for joining us and sharing with us your experiences and how you're really contributing to our community and how you're building a legacy. Cheryl, thank you again for sharing also your experiences and your success as a certified small business. Maggie, it's truly a pleasure for us to work with the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance and with you and your team. Thank you for joining us today. I want to also thank our team, Tamika, for putting everything together, all the logistics, the coordination, the advertising, everything for this event. Thank you, Tamika, for all your hard work. Vanessa joined us today as well, and our wonderful staff here in OESBD. Thank you. Here you can see the contact information for all our speakers, so you can email them and contact them directly if you have additional questions. You would like to again connect with them. And next slide, we would like to share with you some upcoming events we have this month. We have Listening to Your Business on March 29th in Pompano. We would like to welcome all of you to join us. It's going to be in person, and our director, Sandy Michael McDonald, will be the facilitator for this session. And it's basically if you have a business already and you are, trying to scale up, right? Grow your business. You really need to listen to where you are now, how are you doing, and where you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years. So I encourage you to attend. go to our website to register. And then we have on March 31st, cybersecurity, very important topic for your small business and for our entrepreneurs as well. So we hope you can join us for our upcoming workshops. Our website, we have workshops almost every other day, every other week here in OESBD. So we want to make sure that you visit our website for more information on upcoming events. And on the next slide, we would like to invite you to our Broward and Beyond Business Conference. This is a free, all our programs and services are free. This is our free signature event for the year. It's usually in the summer, so it's gonna be June 2nd at the Signature Grand. If you're ready for a full day, action-packed agenda with information and resources for your small business. If you're an entrepreneur, we're also gonna have a lot of information available for you. We have an expo hall with business assistance service providers, business to business exhibitors, and more. So we definitely encourage all of you to join us for our Broward and Beyond Business Conference. You can go to our website to register. To date, we have more than 600 people that have registered for our Broward and Beyond Business Conference. So please go to our website and register to join us. And if you're interested in being an exhibitor or a sponsor, all the information is also available on our website. So looking forward to seeing you there. And next, we want you to save the date for our FITSE 2023 as well. We're finalizing all the details for FITSE. It's our International Trade Conference, another free event, 2-day event at the Convention Center, and it's gonna be mid-October. So stay tuned for more information on our Florida International Trade and Cultural Expo in 2023, October of this year. And next, we want to stay connected with our Broward County Office of Economic and Small Business Development. Please follow us on social media, on our basically Facebook, Instagram. We share Twitter. We share information about upcoming events. Please call our office if you would like more assistance for your business, or if you're an entrepreneur that is thinking about starting a business. We are here to assist you. We are here to help you through that process. You're not alone. So again, thank you everyone for joining us today. It has been a pleasure to have all of you and all our participants, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the next conversation series. Thank you, and happy Women's History Month.
Thank you, Maribel.
Thank
Before
you.
you guys
Bye.
hang up, I just want to give a shout out to you also, and thank you.
Yes.
We didn't thank you, but thank you for putting this amazing event together, and with our amazing OESBD team. As you all can see, we have a lot going on in Broward County, and we do a lot, and we're here for you guys. And so thank you very much. I know that a couple of folks in the chat also wanted to put the slide back up for contact information. I think some folks want to take a picture of that. If you can do that. And then also I saw some questions on how to get the recording because they want to share it. So will that be on our website, Maribel?
Yes, it will be. We record all our conversation series, so you'll be able to see it on Facebook Live. All the conversation series are recorded and they're posted on our Facebook page, but we're also posting them on YouTube. So if you go to the OESBD YouTube channel, you'll be able to see our conversation series as well. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Hope to see you on the next event.
Thank you.